So last week was the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. I'm curious, how many of you watched it? How much of you, oh, hold on a second. How much of you watched a lot of it, a bit of it, or none of it? So by a show of fingers, who watched a lot of it or all of it? None of you. Who watched a bit of it? 5 of you. Who watched none of it? 2 of you, John and Crystal. Okay. Show of fingers, who watched all or most of Trump's acceptance speech on Thursday night?
I tried.
2 of you did. Okay. Tracy, what'd you think of it?
Again, I thought it started off pretty calm for him. He seemed pretty humble. I thought that it was a little over the top when he kissed the fireman's uniform. And then he went back to his normal name calling, bullying self.
Jason, what did you make of it?
Yeah, I liked the first 30 minutes. It was like where he talked about a story and the firemen and everything like that. And then he just started rambling all sorts of crazy stuff. Like, yeah, he was talking about right to try for drugs and like he was all over the place. And then it went too long and I fell asleep. So, yeah, way too long. I think it was like the longest presidential acceptance speech ever. So,
Okay. Show of fingers, who watched all or most of J.D. Vance's acceptance speech on Wednesday night last week? None of you. Okay. By a show of fingers, who had heard of J.D. Vance before last week's convention? 3 of you had. Audra, John, and Jason. John, what did you know about him before the convention?
I knew that he's a senator from Ohio, that he wrote a book, he's Ivy League educated, and he initially came out, I think, anti-Trump in around 2016 and made comments against him, and now has kind of evolved his politics to be what is considered to be a mini-me of Trump.
Okay. Jason, what did you know about him?
yeah, I'd seen Hillbilly Elegy, the movie, hadn't read the book, but knew he wrote it. And I know he was like associated with like Peter Thiel, and like kind of he was a venture capitalist. And yeah, I knew that he didn't do very well in Ohio. I think he squeaked by to become the senator while the rest of the Republicans were doing much better than him.
Okay. And Audrey, what did you know about him?
Same thing from Ohio, though. I have a friend that lives in Ohio that said, "Oh my gosh, he's terrible," and that kind of tainted my views from there. I knew that he was polished and well-spoken, and I did know about the book as well.
Okay. So by a show of fingers, before last week, who had heard of Vance's book, Hillbilly Elegy, or the movie based on the book? Just the 3 of you. Okay. By a show of fingers, who thinks J.D. Vance is prepared to become president if something happened to Trump? None of you. So Vance is 39 years old and has been a U.S. Senator for just 18 months. Trump is 78 years old. By a show of fingers, is Vance's age and short tenure in elected office concerning for anyone? Show of fingers. 5 of you. I want to hear from each of you on this next question. In a sentence or two, tell me how you feel now that Donald Trump has been nominated for the 3rd time by the Republican Party. Stop and think about this. How you feel now that Trump has been nominated for the 3rd time by the Republican Party. June, how do you feel?
I am so disappointed. I was on an earlier poll this year and they asked for my closing statement. My closing statement was this: that I have no choice to vote. It is either Republican or Democrat, and it's the same old stuff. Stuff wasn't the word I used, but yeah, it was my fear.
Okay. Audra, how do you feel now that Donald Trump's been nominated for the third time by the Republican Party?
Not to reiterate June, but my word is disappointed. I cannot believe that this is the best that the Republican Party can come up with.
Chris?
Disappointed that seems that money can buy you pretty much anything now.
Okay. Do you think Trump bought this third nomination?
Yes, I mean he pretty much bought the Republican Party, it seems, because now he's got all of his children like leading the Republican Party this time around, and he's pretty much in charge of the Republican Party.
Okay. John, what about you?
I'd say exhausted. I have Trump fatigue. I'm so tired of every time I look at a news site, the first word I see at the top of the page is Trump. He's always in the headlines, and the only kind of solace I take in this is he won't be running in 4 more years again.
Are you convinced of that?
I'm trying to convince myself of that.
Just by a quick show of fingers, how many of you think that if if Harris, Vice President Harris, happened to win the election, how many of you think that Trump would try to run for a fourth time 4 years from now? Realistically, how many of you think Trump would try it again? 4 of you do. Okay. Jason, how do you feel that Republicans have nominated Trump for a third time?
Yeah, my word with him is John, exhausted. I'm tired of Trump and all the people he brings with him. He's just like, it seems like we lose and lose like a Republican. So I wish like we could figure out some way to replace him. Hopefully this is the last time he runs and we can move on.
Teresa, how about you?
I'm disappointed that some of the other candidates didn't have enough wherewithal to stand up against him so that we could get somebody better.
And Crystal, what about you?
Disappointed. I don't like the way he's made the Republican Party. And it's not the Republican Party that I grew up with and have voted for. It's become very hateful, and I don't like it.
Okay. So last week, Nikki Haley endorsed former President Trump at the Republican National Convention. By a show of fingers, who had heard that she did that? All 7 of you heard that. By a show of fingers, who is likelier to vote for Trump now that she made that endorsement? So it didn't shift any of you toward Trump if you were already prone to go there. Or not, and it didn't shift any of you who were not likely to vote for Trump, moving you closer to Trump. Really? And why not? You voted for her, you respect her, you had all these wonderful things to say about her before. She endorsed Trump. Why aren't any of you moving toward Trump?
Because I think she was forced into it.
Forced by whom?
The Republican Party.
Explain that, Crystal.
Mr. Johnson.
I mean, I think if she wants to do anything with the Republican Party going forward, she had to. She was forced into it. I mean,
Okay.
if she has she's still young, she could try to be, go for the president in 4 years. Because it would be Trump's second term, couldn't do it. And who knows about JD Vance, that might not happen, but she could be a viable candidate in 4 years.
Got it. Okay. How many of you are with Crystal that she did this because if she wants to have a future in the party, she had to do it? Show of fingers. Who's with her on that? Oh, you all agree with her? Okay.
I
Got
think she'd make a great Secretary of State. That would be the only saving grace.
All right.
Yeah.
Got it. So Haley is an internationalist. Some of you mentioned that before, who believes in projecting American power overseas. JD Vance is an isolationist who does not support U.S. engagement in Ukraine, for example. He has said, quote, "I don't really care what happens to Ukraine one way or the other," unquote. By a show of fingers, does Vance's position on international engagement concern anyone? Show of fingers, concerned by his position on international engagement. Wow, all 7 of you. All right. So last week was the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. I'm curious about how much of it you watched. A lot of it, a bit of it, or none of it. By a show of fingers, who watched a lot of it? I got 2, Ronnie and Dale. Who watched a bit of it? Barbara. 1. Who watched none of it? 4 of you. Show of fingers. Who watched all or most of Trump's acceptance speech on Thursday night? 2 of you. Dale, what'd you think of it?
Well, I thought it was all right. It's expected to be sort of a commercial of sorts, and it's nobody's in the room to slow him down.
To slow him down.
Right. You mean he has the floor and they're in their glory. It's kind of a pre-battle kind of thing. And he's there to kind of rile the troops.
Okay. Thanks. Ronnie, you talked a little bit about this earlier, so I don't want to have you go through all of it again. But
First of all, he spoke, I think it was 92 to 97 minutes, which was way too long. He started off really well, and then he started going off down rabbit holes, and he got off script, and it was just way too long. If he'd have ended at 45 minutes, it'd have been great.
Okay. Show of fingers. Who watched all or most of J.D. Vance's acceptance speech on Wednesday night? 1 of you did. Ryan, what'd you think of it?
He stayed on script. He did a pretty good job with it. But now I kind of think that since Joe Biden dropped out of the race, I think they might be regretting that he chose J.D. Vance as his running partner.
Why?
Because J.D. Vance was picked up or chosen so he could get the Rust Belt states. But now I don't think they need that as much. I think they need somebody that's not a bulldog and not just like Trump. And he shows that side of it.
Got it. By a show of fingers, who had heard of J.D. Vance before last week's convention? Zach and Ronnie, 2 of you. Zach, before last week, what did you know about J.D. Vance?
Honestly, I just knew he was in contention for VP. I didn't really know anything about his policies, and I didn't really spend the time to look anything into it. I just knew he was one of the leaders.
Did you know he was a U.S. Senator?
Did.
You
but
did.
That's about it.
Okay. Got it. Ronnie, what did you know about him before last week?
I knew he was senator from Ohio, and also he's ultra conservative. And he also wrote Hillbilly Elegy, which I watched that on Netflix the other night to see what kind of family background he came from.
Okay. I don't want to go on too much of a detour here. Just out of curiosity, did watching the movie make you feel more like you liked him or less like you liked him?
Oh, a lot more. He came up from a very bad, rough background.
Okay. Got it. Also, I need to ask you guys a question I neglected to ask you earlier about Nikki Haley. My apologies. How many of you voted for Nikki Haley while she was still running for president in the primary? Show of fingers. Who remembers voting for her while she was still had a chance to? She was still actually running. She hadn't dropped out yet. I got 5 of you. Okay.
Yeah, because we voted early.
Got it. Okay, 5 of you. Thank you. All right. Going back to J.D. Vance. My apologies. Show of fingers. Before last week, who had heard of Vance's book, Hillbilly Elegy, or the movie based on the book? Just one of you. Show of fingers. Who thinks J.D. Vance is prepared to become president if something happened to Trump? None of you. So Vance is 39 years old and has been a U.S. Senator for just 18 months. Trump is 78 years old. By a show of fingers, is Vance's age and short tenure in elected office concerning for anyone? Show of fingers. 4 of you. Okay.
If I could say it's the tenure and not the age for me.
Okay. Got it. I want to hear from each of you on this. In a sentence or two, tell me how you feel now that Donald Trump has been nominated for the 3rd time by the Republican Party. Stop and think for a second. Just know very briefly in a sentence or two, how you feel now that Trump has been nominated for the 3rd time by the Republican Party. Anybody have an answer to that? Melody, how do you feel?
I'm kind of sort of in shock still.
You're in shock.
Yeah,
Okay. That they would do it? Is that what you mean?
that he could be in the Republican Party, really?
All
I
right.
mean, he's not conservative Republican. Sorry.
When we say he's not conservative in what way?
He's not a Republican. Does
Meaning,
he go to church every day, every week? No, no, he does not.
okay. So for it's social reasons, you're telling me. Okay, got it. All right. Tiara, how do you feel that Trump has been nominated for the 3rd time by the Republican Party?
I feel like it's crazy, to be honest. But that's who they got, so that's who they gonna pick. But it really don't make no sense.
All right. Barbara? You're muted, Barbara.
I just can't believe that out of 3 times that they couldn't come up with anybody better, like that he actually got their votes.
Okay. Dale?
Well, I feel the same way, is that he's better than Biden or Harris, but I think we could have done much better. And I go back to Nikki. I wish she was still there, but.
Okay. Jennifer?
I'm disappointed in how polarized politics have become, that was who was selected by both the American people and the political sort of machine or mechanism for the Republican Party.
Got it. Zach?
There's an issue with the primary system.
Okay. Ronnie?
I wanted somebody else, 3 other people anyway, but the people voted him in. So you got to go with the voters and how they voted. And I will vote for Trump because I know he's going to be better for my back pocket, and hopefully grocery prices will come down, gas prices will come down, and the southern border will be closed. So he can do that. But I was disappointed. I thought somebody else would have been a better choice.
Got it. So last week, Nikki Haley endorsed former President Trump at the Republican National Convention. By a show of fingers, who heard that she did that? 5 of you. Okay. And by a show of fingers, who is likelier to vote for Trump now that she made that endorsement? None of you. So your preferred candidate said to you, you should vote for Trump. You voted for me and you should vote for Trump. And that has no impact on any of you. It's not going to make any of you likely to vote. Barbara? You're muted again. I'm sorry.
I felt that first of all, I wish she would have been nominated for his VP because that would have really sealed the deal. But I think I felt better about voting for him because she did endorse him, but I think because she didn't get the VP nomination, that what else was she going to do, you know? So in a way, yes, it made me want to vote for him a little bit more.
So one of you had moved a little bit more toward Trump. Okay. Yeah. The rest of you, why didn't it move any of you? Especially if, I want to hear from the people who actually who are likely to vote for Harris. Why did it not move you?
Because I don't like Trump.
Okay.
Period.
All right. So Haley's encouragement, that did nothing.
No.
Okay.
I like her though.
All right. So Haley is an Haley is an internationalist who believes in projecting American power overseas. J.D. Vance is an isolationist who does not support U.S. engagement in Ukraine. He has said, quote, "I really don't care what happens to Ukraine one way or the other," unquote. By a show of fingers, does Vance's position on international engagement concern you? Show of fingers. Who would say Vance's position on international engagement concerns you? 6 of you. Okay.